Good afternoon, guys. Just ticked over afternoon here in Melbourne. Say hello as you jump on. Love to know who's joining me here today. I know it's late notice and I really do apologise for not being able to make it on Tuesday when I originally said I would be jumping in here with you to chat all things hay fever. We had a calamity on our hands that required attending at work, unfortunately, but better late than never, right? And I hope this is a really useful conversation for everybody. I know that there's a lot of you out there struggling with hay fever at the moment. 'Tis the season for it, but I am certain that what I've got to share with you will hopefully leave you feeling armed with a lot of different alternatives for natural remedies that you can try to help mitigate and lessen the intensity of your hay fever. If not, hopefully resolve it completely. That's my intention. Okay, hello, who is watching with me? Please say hello. I would love to know who's joining me. I'm gonna get stuck into it. So today, like I said, chatting all things hay fever and allergy support for you. Wherever you are in this world, here in the Southern Hemisphere, it is peak hay fever season. And there are a lot of people sniffling, sneezing and itching their eyeballs off their face right now. So let's see what we can do to help everybody feel better. The first thing, excuse me, the first thing that I would love to say is that you do not have to suffer from hay fever. It is not normal to suffer from hay fever as much as it is normalised here in Australia. You know, everyone just goes, well, it's hay fever season. It's not normal. You don't need to suffer from hay fever. Hey, Ren Marley, great to see you. Hay fever is not something that you have to suffer, okay? What I want you to understand is that hay fever is a sign of a dysfunctional immune system, first and foremost, because our immune systems should not be behaving in the way that they are to these triggers like pollen. All right, so the first thing that you need to make note of is that it is not normal to experience hay fever, and underlying the hay fever side of things, the hay fever symptoms, is a dysfunctional immune system that is likely being triggered at its root by a dysfunctional microbiome in the gut. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What I'm going to chat with you and share with you is not just some oily support measures, but we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into how to support your gut and also food support as well, because whether or not you're aware, there are certain foods that can absolutely exacerbate the intensity of your hay fever symptoms. So here's the thing. Did you know that there's a lot of research highlighting that children who grow up in contact with farm animals or in farm settings have far lower rates of allergies and hay fever overall compared to the general population? Fact. Those kids have a much more diverse microbiome. And the diversity of their microbiome is the very thing that protects them from developing the likes of hay fever and allergies in the first instance. So that is a really, really good example for you to visualize in your head. The way that we combat hay fever is all about encouraging the diversity of our microbiome. Hi, Christine. Hello, good to see you. So, obviously, not all of us have access to a farm or farm animals. We might have pets, and pets are wonderful. They really, really are so very valuable for improving the diversity of our microbiome. I know not everybody is a fan of letting their dogs lick their skin or their face, for example, or, you know, rolling around in your dog bed, but there is actually some value from doing those things. So don't be too afraid to get up close and personal with your animals. Now, here's a couple of things. Like I said, our gut health and our microbiome plays a huge role in our susceptibility towards hay fever and allergies. Here's something else. There are different bacteria within our gut that actually produce histamine. We have bacteria strains in our gut that actually create histamine. And on the flip side of that, we have bacteria that eat histamine. That is their ideal snack, is just munching down on histamine. So what we're trying to do is create the perfect balance of bacteria in our gut, whereby we don't have too many of those those histamine producing bacteria in our gut, and they are balanced with the ones that love to eat histamine. Okay? And this is where probiotics and looking after our gut by way of food is really, really important. There are a lot of foods that actually promote histamine production within the body, and you may have had an experience with this yourself. Perhaps you're somebody like me who cannot tolerate wine. Drinking red wine specifically, more so than white, triggers my nose off in a fit of sneezing. It becomes congested immediately. My eyes are itchy. It is all the typical hay fever symptoms that I get from wine. And the same thing occurs if I eat cheese, particularly really well-aged cheese, and certain brands of cacao as well. Chocolate, red wine, cheese, fermented foods, kombucha, kefir, yogurt, cured meats, pastrami, leftover food in general, and also seafood that has been left for a couple of days before it's cooked, so not freshly cooked, not freshly caught seafood. They are all very, very high histamine foods. And when it comes to fruit and vegetables, pumpkin, tomato, red capsicum, all high in histamine. And from a fruit perspective, banana, pineapple, strawberries, they are some of your highest histamine foods. So if you would like to consider whether or not right now in your diet you are consuming a lot of those high histamine foods, just know that you're not helping your hay fever situation. You're not doing it any favors by consuming significant quantities of those foods. And what you might want to experiment with first and foremost is cutting out some of those food groups, eliminating the high histamine foods from your diet, and see what difference that makes. Because when we have too much histamine present in our gut, the excess flows out into our bloodstream. And that is just exacerbating your allergy symptoms. When you have histamine in your blood, hives on your skin, you become really itchy, everything becomes inflamed, the same usual congestion symptoms, all of that is a sign of excess histamine. Does that make sense? Are you guys with me? I'm just going to take a sip of my cacao as I say this to you. And I will say, yeah, so Ranmali, Warren and I, we actually had to do a low histamine diet for a period of 3 months, going back last year, because we were eating far too many high histamine foods and our allergies were through the roof. And I kid you not, cutting out those high histamine foods for that period of time made a world of difference. And it wasn't just the allergies that subsided, it was the overall levels of systemic inflammation. What I noticed for myself was that I was incredibly puffy. My face was puffy, my body was puffy, everything was red, and I just felt inflamed and really uncomfortable. And what I noticed was that just by cutting out those high histamine foods and reducing the overall levels of histamine in my body, I lost weight. I didn't do anything else. It was just that there was less inflammation in my body. Oh, hey Camellia, how you going? Yeah, exactly. The low histamine diet is used often for people that are dealing with skin irritations such as eczema. And for anybody, like I said, that's dealing with allergies in general, then it can be incredibly helpful. So that might be something that you want to explore with. So like I said, excess histamine that is present in the gut by way of eating too many histamine-rich foods flows out into our bloodstream and exacerbates that whole allergic immune response, which should not be happening. So that's the number one thing that you can experiment with. Secondary to that is the fact that there is an enzyme that we produce called DAO, diamine oxidase, and it is the number one core enzyme that is implicated in the degradation, so the breaking down of histamine in the body. Here is the ironic thing. Antihistamine medications, the likes of Claritine, Sudafed, and all of those other medications, guess what they do? Long-term use actually inhibits that DAO enzyme from working. So that very enzyme that we need to make sure that our histamine levels are kept at healthy levels in the body is completely impeded. It's completely impeded through the use of antihistamine medication. Go figure that one. So what we're doing is actually creating a much worse situation for ourselves. I know a lot of people that rely on antihistamine medication on the daily. And those poor people, when they decide to make the call that they cannot live and subsist on antihistamine medication to manage their symptoms, what they find when they wean themselves off is that their DAO enzyme is gone. It is pretty much obliterated, and therefore their body has a really hard time with dealing with that excess histamine because there is nothing to break it down. Right? Madness. And that's something to remember, is that there is always a consequence and a side effect from using medication. Obviously, there is a time and a place from using medication. It serves a purpose, but it is not to be relied upon on a daily, consistent, long-term approach, particularly when we're dealing with antihistamines. So we've got the situation whereby not only is it completely impeding our DAO enzyme production, it is also messing with the microbiome of our gut, and what we're left with is more of the histamine producing bacteria and less of the bacteria that eats that histamine. Hey Ingrid, how you going? I hope that makes sense. So it's a bit of a quandary. Antihistamine medication is not a straightforward affair, and there is a consequence from relying upon it. So the very best thing that we can do to support our bodies and eliminate the need for antihistamine medication is to focus on the microbiome. It's all about balancing that microbiome. So here are some suggestions for you. These are the bacteria strains that you want to focus on. So bifidobacteria strains and some lactobacillus strains. I'm going to read them out to you now, but I will also put them in text in this post as well for you. So strains along the lines of Bifidobacterium infantis, Bifidum longum, Lactobacillus plantarum, Bifidobacterium lactis. There's probably 5 or so others that are excellent in degrading and munching upon that histamine. So that's what we're looking to promote the use of. Now, the other supplement that works an absolute treat when it comes to breaking down excess histamine in the body is Terrazyme. And my dad is the perfect example of this. I used him as a guinea pig. Dad has always suffered from really, really bad hay fever. Every single year, he would be an absolute mess. What we did last year, and it wasn't actually for the purpose of hay fever, I was looking to get him off Nexium, which is an acid reflux medication. That itself has some really nasty side effects from long-term use, and I was really keen to get him off it. So how we got him off it was through Terrazyme. The funny and wonderful little bonus of getting him off Nexium and getting him onto Terrazyme was that his hay fever disappeared. What we found was that when his Terrazyme supply ran out for a period of 2 weeks, his hay fever came back. What was going on there? What was causing this strange turn of events? He was fine with Terrazyme, he ran out of Terrazyme, his symptoms came back. Why was that? Well, it turns out that digestive enzymes play a really important role in the degradation of histamine. Digestive enzymes eat histamine, and that's why he saw such a fabulous reduction in his hay fever symptoms. And no joke, when his supply of Terrazyme came back into stock and he was back on his regular dose, his hay fever symptoms disappeared again. So we killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only did we solve his acid reflux situation, we also happily, and just as a bonus, happened to solve his hay fever symptoms as well. Here's something that you want to know about digestive enzymes. They have a couple of different functions. When we take them with food, they get to work breaking down food, right? That's their job. They get to work breaking down and making sure that our digestive processes happen appropriately. But when there is no food involved and we happen to take digestive enzymes on an empty stomach, they do something really different. Instead of breaking down food, they go into our bloodstream and they go hunting down rogue proteins and inflammatory compounds that could be creating inappropriate immune responses, and they eat them instead. So when we take digestive enzymes on an empty stomach, they have a wonderful therapeutic response of eradicating irritating compounds in our bloodstream. Does that make sense? So what we did for Dad was we had him take 3 Terrazyme on an empty stomach before bed. That's what he was doing, and it worked an absolute treat for him. Now, obviously, it's not a cure-all, and he needed to combine that with removing some of those low histamine foods, because Dad loves his red wine, he loves his cheese, he loves his dark chocolate. All of those typically really high histamine foods, I ate a boatload of. So he really did need to work hard at reducing some of those high histamine foods in his diet as well. Camellia, should you take before bed and then with food too, or just at night? Honestly, I really don't think there is a limit or a cap on digestive enzymes. They serve so much good value, when we take them with food, because they preserve metabolic enzymes, which are all about life-sustaining and anti-aging qualities. When we don't have enough digestive enzymes present in our gut, and FYI, from the age of 30, the levels of digestive enzymes that we have rapidly start to decline at a rate of 10% per year. So we really do need digestive enzymes to make sure that our digestive system is able to perform properly. So I think there is value in taking them with food and then at night on an empty stomach, particularly if you are somebody that is prone to allergies. So just experiment for yourself, because obviously we're all different. But I am a big fan of taking them with food and also on an empty stomach. Okay, so like I said, Terrazyme on an empty stomach performs a completely different role. We've spoken about the probiotics, we've spoken about the DAO enzyme and the problems that we run into when we take antihistamine medication. Now, let us chat about some of my other fabulous tricks and the research that I've come across when it comes to the very best essential oils to support allergy symptoms. Okay, firstly, in the Lifelong Vitality supplements, there are some really, really good antihistamine compounds. So we've got the likes of bromelain, ginger, quercetin, pine bark extract, acetyl L-carnitine. They are all present in the Lifelong Vitality supplements, and each one of those compounds is considered to be an antihistamine agent, all right? So the fact that you're getting those in your diet by way of those supplements is incredibly valuable. Also, omega-3 and 6 fatty acids are shown to suppress allergy activation of mast cells, and they also modulate the anti-inflammatory response in the body. Again, very much of value to allergic response situations such as hay fever season. So I really would consider seeking out the Lifelong Vitality and seeing what difference they make for you. Remember that if you're somebody that wants to purchase the Terrazyme, then I would strongly recommend that you purchase your Lifelong Vitality from the US warehouse, because then you can access the Terrazyme at half price, okay? That's definitely the best way to do it. So you've got some really valuable antihistamine compounds that are present in the Lifelong Vitality supplements. You've also got them present in the Deep Blue Polyphenols, which is another supplement that we can access via the US warehouse at half price. Again, you've got the likes of turmeric in there, ginger, quercetin, frankincense resin. All of those, again, are well-known and researched antihistamine and anti-inflammatory agents. Just heading back to the gut temporarily, ditching the gluten, wheat, dairy and refined sugar is also going to serve you really well alongside those high histamine foods, okay? Because we know that they create inflammation in the body. And what we're looking to do is to reduce overall levels of inflammation in the body, because the less inflammation you have, the less inflamed you're going to feel here. Let us dive into some of the oils, but before I do, I really just want to shine a light on the brilliance that is raw honey. This is one of my favorite things to use as a carrier when I take my essential oils internally. So this is raw, guys, and that you can see that by its solid nature. That is pure, raw, unfiltered, unprocessed honey. And that contains so much good stuff that, again, has been proven to support people in the lead up to hay fever season. So something that I know that we're in hay fever season now, but doesn't hurt to start a little bit late. Taking a teaspoon or a couple of teaspoons of raw honey on the daily has been proven to help dissipate allergy symptoms, particularly hay fever. Some of my favorite oils to include with my raw honey are manuka, Roman chamomile, lemongrass, geranium. What else have I got here? Sandalwood, copaiba, fennel, peppermint, lavender. They are all some examples of essential oils that you can incorporate with your raw honey. Oh, that's okay, Camellia. Yep, this will be here for you when you come back. Good luck with your naturopath appointment. So there's some of the essential oils that we can take internally. Obviously, the holy trinity of antihistamine essential oils that we often are referred to is lemon, lavender and peppermint. Those three oils, when paired together, have wonderful antihistamine properties. They can be used all three ways. So you can use them through inhalation, you can take them under your tongue, a drop of each under your tongue, or in a glass of water. Swish them around your mouth, because we want them to absorb through our mucous membranes inside our mouth. That's going to be the fastest way to affect change. The membranes in our mouth, in our oral cavity, are only 1 cell thick. And what that means is that essential oils can pass over into our bloodstream really quickly, where they can get to work and start reducing those allergic responses that are happening in your body. So that's definitely one of my preferred methods, is to take a shot glass of water with my oils and swish them around my mouth, or hold them in my mouth before swallowing, okay? Otherwise you can take them under the tongue or in a veggie capsule as well. But what I would say with the veggie capsule side of things is bear in mind that some of those oils, some of the therapeutic constituents, are going to be degraded by the stomach acid when they hit your gut. So that means that there's going to be less of therapeutic activity available That's why I prefer taking them under the tongue or letting them absorb into my mouth, because they bypass the gastric acid that degrades those chemical constituents that we're looking to retain. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But we can also apply them topically. So I like making up a roller bottle that I can apply over the bridge of my nose and across the sinus cavities here, as well as swiping under my nostrils here. So I've got those beautiful aromas wafting up into my nostrils at all times and settling down any inflammation. What happens is that the inside of our nasal cavities tend to become quite irritated, don't they, and hypersensitive. Any of those antihistamine essential oils are going to work beautifully to settle down the irritation in the nasal cavities. Okie dokie. Now, here's some science for you. Some of my favorite studies that I've come across when it comes to essential oils working wonders against allergic symptoms. Inhaling sandalwood, geranium, and Ravensara for 5 minutes twice daily for 7 days has been proven to show significant improvement in total nasal symptom scores, which is basically congestion, right? The feelings of congestion in the sinus cavities, pressure, all of those tie into total nasal symptom scores. Especially in nasal obstruction and feelings of fatigue and watery, itchy eyes. Okay, so that combination was sandalwood, geranium, and Ravensara being inhaled. Roman chamomile has been shown to relax and relieve sinus pressure. Working with Roman chamomile before spring hits may boost your immune system and reduce your overall sensitivity to pollen. One study found that Roman chamomile, was super effective in easing inflammation in the throat and the respiratory passages, whilst inhibiting further histamine release. So what that study found was that Roman chamomile it stopped the production of further histamine in the body, whilst also improving those overall feelings of congestion, irritation, inflammation that happens from having an allergic response. Manuka, like I touched upon before, has been shown to reduce the release of histamine simply through inhalation, and it also eases the irritation and inflammation of membranes, particularly in the nasal cavities, but also in the respiratory tract as well. So if you find that you experience itchy throats during hay fever season, grab your raw honey or even olive oil and add a couple of drops of Manuka. Swish it around your throat, maybe do some oil pulling, and then let it drip down your throat to ease that irritation and discomfort. Blue tansy is one of the most powerful antihistamine essential oils that we have in our wellness toolkit. I actually love swiping blue tansy over my sinus cavities, and I also swipe it under my nose. I find excellent relief from the combination of blue tansy, geranium, and lemongrass. Blue tansy, geranium, and lemongrass. That trio is my favourite and catch-all combination. No worries, Ranmali, it'll be here for you later. So, blue tansy, all things excellent for allergy symptom relief. It's a natural antihistamine with anti-allergenic properties. It stabilizes mast cells, which are heavily involved in the allergic response, and research shows it to be especially effective for opening up the airways and soothing irritated internal tissues and membranes. Blending with lemongrass has been proven to enhance this effect. Okay? So that's why I love blue tansy with lemongrass and geranium. One study found that lemongrass was found to have the overall strongest anti-allergenic and anti-inflammatory effect out of 20 oils that were tested for these properties. The constituents contained within lemongrass believed to be responsible for these outcomes were citral and geraniol, which are very high in lemongrass. But let us not forget that the entourage effect of all of those chemical constituents contained within lemongrass all serve a purpose. They are there by design, from nature. Mama Nature put them together for a reason. That's because they work together. They enhance their effects. How many drops, please, of each for lemongrass, blue tansy, and geranium? In my roller bottle that I've made up, Ingrid, I've done 10 to 12 drops of each. I'm very loose with my measurements, as you know, so that might range from anywhere between 10 and 15. But start with 10 and see how you go. 10 of each, that is. So, like I said, lemongrass is not just geraniol and citral, it is all of its myriad of different chemical constituents that make up the sum of its parts. There is no benefit to isolating certain compounds from an essential oil because, like I said, Mama Nature put them there to work together, not separately. Another study found that Roman chamomile, lemongrass, and sandalwood produced a 40% inhibition of mast cell activity, which plays a critical role in histamine production. So that combination again was Roman chamomile, lemongrass, and sandalwood combined, reduced histamine production in the body by 40%. Definitely worth trying, I'm sure you would agree. And then we come to geranium. So geranium has demonstrated strong mast cell stabilizing properties, again, strongly implicated in the production of histamine in the body, thanks to its really high levels of citraniol. Research has found it incredibly effective in inhibiting the release of histamine in the body and providing really solid anti-allergenic qualities. Alice, it all comes down to different chemical constituents because every single essential oil has different chemical constituents. So the chemical constituents found within lavender vary differently to the likes of lemongrass and geranium. There may be a couple of different crossovers, but at their core, they are very differently made up essential oils with very different chemicals. So it just comes down to different chemicals having different responses in the body. There's no reason why you can't use lavender, peppermint, and lemon. But for some people, that combination doesn't work, because we're all different. We all have very different genetic makeup, cellular makeup. Our body behaves differently to different chemical constituents, and therefore, if lavender, lemon, and peppermint don't work for somebody, that's fine. That's totally okay. It doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that the essential oils are broken. It just means that that combination is not right for your body. So therefore, you might be willing to try the likes of lemongrass, geranium, and blue tansy, and you might find that that combination works wonders for you. That's what it's about. Give it a crack, Alice. It's all about what works for you. There's no right or wrong. It's about what creates the desired results for you. Yeah? So just have an experiment. There's no rules. No rules. Have fun. And let us know what your experiments yield. So geranium, really strong mast cell inhibiting and stabilizing properties. And they inhibit the release of further histamine in the body. Again, all really super powerful things that we need during hay fever season. And then we have the fact that copaiba and turmeric have been found to suppress, again, histamine production in the body. So you see, we have, honestly, so many different essential oils that we can try. Like I was saying to Alice, there is no right or wrong. It is about what is right for your body. Okay, it's about what works for your body and produces those desired results. So geranium and lemongrass and blue tansy, yes, Alice, they are all okay for internal use. Yep, they're all GRAS certified. So if you want to use them in that method, you absolutely can. So, like I said, if you don't have the desired results with lavender, lemon, and peppermint, or the tri-use capsules don't work for you, it's not because you're broken or that all the oils are broken. It's just because your makeup is different and your cells are going to respond differently to another combination of oils. That's what it comes down to. So please don't get disheartened if you are finding that lavender, lemon and peppermint aren't getting anything done for you. Okay, just know that I've listed off a dozen other essential oil combinations that might be the ticket that you've been hunting for this whole time. And all of those essential oils obviously can be used in your diffuser aromatically. They can be inhaled straight from the palms of your hands, or you might like to try a salt pipe if you're familiar with those, or making a nasal inhaler. You can get nasal inhalers, empty nasal inhalers from Natural Good Life or Oils for Life Australia. And you basically put salt inside of them with your combination of essential oils, and you use it as a nasal inhaler stick. A lot of people find that method incredibly effective and preferable for them. But all of those essential oils can be used in the diffuser as well, have them wafting around your home, offering up their beautiful aromatic compounds to reduce allergic symptoms in the household. And they can also be used internally. I don't think there was one that I mentioned that cannot be used internally there. Typically, just an FYI, just on blue tansy. So typically, blue tansy would have a chemical constituent called foudre or foudrone in it. Most blue tansies will have that in it. However, doTERRA's blue tansy does not have that particular chemical constituent in it. It is the foudrone that makes blue tansy often marked as unable to be used internally. But doTERRA's does not have that present. It's also not present in yarrow pom either. Typically, yarrow also has that same chemical constituent foudrone that should not be ingested. But doTERRA have made sure it's not present in either of those beautiful blue essential oils. So you could try any of those combinations that I've mentioned in a veggie capsule. You can take them in a shot glass of water, swished around your mouth. You could even oil pull with them. Or you could just down the hatch or under the tongue. Make up a roller bottle for yourself and swipe them over the bridges of your nose, under your nostrils as well. There are so many different uses. It just comes down to what works for you. One other thing that I just wanted to share with you. If you are somebody that is dealing with really intense sinus pressure pain because you're just so congested from your hay fever symptoms, what you might like to try is a steam tent. So grab yourself a mug or a bowl of hot water and put in there the likes of oregano, thyme, peppermint and lavender, and sit your face and your nose over that steaming aromatic bath. And that should help immensely to relieve the sinus pressure in your cavities. Okay, so steam tents are also very, very wonderful, and a lot of people really find great relief and comfort in using those in hay fever symptoms. I think that's all I wanted to share with you today. That's a bit of a really thorough rundown about all the things that can play a really supportive role in combating allergy season. Any questions? Ingrid, have you got any questions for me around anything that I've mentioned? Alice, any other questions? Like I said, I'm going to type all this up for you as well, so you've got the text notes there to refer to also. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. I hope there was some valuable ideas in there for you, and what I would love is that if you are somebody that's dealing with hay fever at the moment and you give one of the combinations that I've mentioned a try and you find that one of them works an absolute treat for you, please do let me know. Let me know in the group or let me know in the comments. Alice, I'm going to type them up in this in the post that's attached to this video. So once the video terminates, it's going to remain here as a live recording that can be watched over, but there will be text attached to that video. It's going to take me about an hour to type it up for you, so just be patient, but you should see it up there by the end of this afternoon. Yeah, Ingrid, so good. His off Nexium. Digestin, Terrazyme, and reducing his intake of those high histamine foods has worked wonders. Just goes to show that we don't need to rely on medication, right? But we do have to have the will, the motivation, and the desire to seek out a natural alternative. And sometimes people don't have that desire, do they? Or it's in the too hard basket. Taking a pill is better. It's just easier, right? It's just easier. But that's just a habit. Really, really good results though. And who knew it was going to get rid of his hay fever symptoms? Alrighty, I'm not seeing any other questions come through here. So I'm going to get to work typing up these notes for you. And if you'd like to come check in on this video in a couple of hours' time, I should have the notes there for you to refer to. And I'll put a couple of recipes in there as well for you, just a couple of different roller bottle combinations with ratios, just as a starting point for you to experiment with and give you a jumping point, a bit of a foundation. All right. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy this beautiful weather, although it looks a little bit cloudy out there right now. Hopefully that doesn't continue. Mwah. Oh, my love. Have a great day.